That's right. Welcome in, welcome back, folks, to a Nick Saban just said that no regular season game results should matter. And I think that's kind of crazy. Edition of the Always Irish Show. As always, you can find a program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. Appreciate that as well. Notifications on that way you're alerted every time a new episode drops. You don't want to miss it, do you? Twitter, search bar, Always Irish Rat. Always Irish Inc. Emails, alwaysirishmd@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want me. You can give me the Cowlin line. 312-988-15. You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen about Notre Dame football. Fighting Irish Wire. Booty doot doot. Type them words in. Notre Dame information's come out. It's beautiful. Do not forget, I hope you got your tickets already. Sunday, July 9th, Sam Hartman's first public Notre Dame NIL appearance. Forever Young Sports Cards in Crown Point. The event, sponsored by yours truly. We're going to have a great day. Please join us. Meet Sam, have some fun, get an autograph, play some bags, talk about the Irish. It's going to be a great day. Visit foreveryoungsportscards.com for further information and, most importantly, to get your tickets. All right, let's get into this. I think old St. Nick is on the beginning ends of his retirement tour. He's been doing a lot of talking lately, saying some things that I know he wouldn't say and wouldn't mean if he was midway through his tenure at Alabama, starting his tenure at Alabama, coaching somewhere else in middle of his career. He's getting a little chatty with certain things that I know he doesn't like, but he's taking the high road because I think he knows by the time any of it happens, he's going to be retired, but then he's on the record standing up for the players and doing that sort of thing. An example, he was talking about the players unionizing and all that. He's doing a lot of talking about NIL, about players unionizing, and now about the football playoff. He was with Joel Klatt, who actually does a really good job on college football coverage. I like this guy's work on Fox. He seems to be fairly unbiased and know what he's talking about. So I do think, as much as I talk to you guys about everybody I don't like and every station I don't like and ESPN and Peacock and everything else, I like Joel Klatt. I think he does a pretty good job. Anyways, Saban was with Klatt, and here's what he said. Quote, when they told me we'd be favored over 3 of the 4 playoff teams that got in, I'm like, well, then why aren't we in the playoff? So think about that. I'll say it again. I want it to marinate. He said, when they told me we'd be favored over 3 of the 4 playoff teams that got in, I'm like, well, then why aren't we in the playoff? Now, this is a tricky thing to navigate. I talk all the time, to the point where people are now making fun of me for it, about philosophically speaking, ... existentially speaking, ... I love those 2 paths. Those are 2 of my favorite college football paths and Notre Dame paths to travel down. They challenge your mind thinking of things existentially and philosophically. But this one's a bit tricky to navigate. Let's start here. Some of this, and the reason why Saban's even in a position to make that statement, I blame on the actual playoff committee themselves. And what I mean by that is, when you say the best 4 teams and not the most deserving 4 or a combination of best and deserving, and then give parameters of what fall in each of those. When you don't offer those definitions, and they don't, you open up this kind of discussion and the road that Saban's trying to take this down. Let me expand on this, if you will. Let me indulge. How do you define best? It's the 4 best teams. How do you define best? How do you define most deserving? See, this is the issue. This is the problem I have with this committee. I hate how much wiggle room the committee has to define these things and change the criteria to meet whatever outcome they want it to be. And that's exactly what they do. Every week that they're up there giving their reasons, one week it's this reason for this team. The next week it's a different reason for a different team. And then what they use to go for this team, they use to go against them the next week. That's the issue. They get to change the criteria and the definitions of this every week. And so you can never pin them on anything because it's all just aqueous. They get to just apply whatever reasoning to whatever team whenever they want. There's no consistency to how these notions are being defined. That's the issue. And I do think this is one reason the 12-team playoff is going to be better, because it's less likely to be the case that you're going to be left out of the tournament by bad decisions and bad rationale by this committee. And so I do think that's good. You may still get a bad seeding if you get a raw deal by these people, but I'm not going to feel as bad for the 13th team being denied a chance to win a championship as I would a legitimate number 5 that gets a raw deal and gets left out. So this does provide a bigger safety net for these people to make mistakes, but you're still at least in the tournament. You may not like your seeding, but you have a better chance of being in it. So that is a good thing. So it does expand the safety net of who they're keeping out. I don't feel that bad. If you're the 13th team, it means you've lost at least 2 games. I don't feel that bad for you then. Don't lose 2 games. But number 5, you could have a legitimate team left out and have a beef. So this at least expands that. But look more specifically at what Saban is actually saying. He's saying kind of that the regular season game results shouldn't matter. And that even though his team lost multiple games, it doesn't matter. By talent, not results, they should be in even if they lost multiple games in the regular season. Shouldn't matter. They have more talent than 3 of those other teams they should be in, even though they didn't take care of business in the regular season multiple times. Now, I get that all schedules are not equal. That's a big part of this. Certain conferences offer tougher schedules than others. Look no further than Michigan's Ann Arbor High School Tour, otherwise known as their schedule this year, if you want an example of that. So I totally recognize the argument that all these schedules aren't built the same. But then that's an argument for the committee to go with most deserving and best. Not just best based off the records, no matter who you play. Because I do agree with Saban on that. They talk all the time about strength of schedule, who you beat or whatever. I have yet to see them leave out a Power 5 team who doesn't play anybody good if they're in the mix. They don't do it. So they're all talk about that. But in the end of it, if you're a Power 5 team and you play nobody or you play one game all year, like Michigan's going to do, maybe two, they don't hold nobody accountable for that. So till I see that, I don't believe it. So I get that all schedules are not equal, and that's a struggle, how to measure that. Certain conferences out for tougher schedules. We know. But once you start making an argument that you should be able to ignore the actual wins and losses in the regular season, that gets dangerous to me. Then what is the regular season for at that point? It's all an exhibition, and then we just go by recruiting rankings of the best talent, and those 4 teams are the playoff teams? Where does this go if it's not connected to the wins and losses of the teams you play on your schedule? That's just dangerous. It's dangerous. So, what do you tell Saban? How about shut up and stop losing to Brian Kelly and being mad other teams are doing NIL now that it's legal because you had to market on that before then? And win your games in your conference that you're so proud of. And it just means more. Well, then win more games in it. Or go coach in the Pac-12 or the Big 12 or something. Recruit the way you do, but do it in one of those teams. And then you're not in such a tough conference if that's what you're crying about. But once you start making the argument that your actual regular season wins and losses don't matter, and they should be trumped by the idea of, yeah, they lost a couple games, but we still think they're better than all these other teams. What you say then is the regular season's pointless. If the wins and losses aren't the leading indicator of all this, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? What is all this for? Like philosophically and practically, what good is the regular season then? And if you thought you were that great, shouldn't you have not let Brian Kelly beat you? If you thought you deserved that playoff spot so much, how could you lose to Brian Kelly then? So I get some of his frustrations. I share them too with this committee. But the answer can't be ignore the regular season wins and losses and just look at how much raw talent's on the team. And then that's who gets to go in the playoff. That's not how you do this. And it's like, oh, the SEC, sometimes it's a loaded schedule. Sorry. You brag about that all the time when it works in your favor. You don't get to cry about it one year it works against you. You don't get to do that. Brag about how tough it is week to week when you're doing good. And then one year you don't make it, you're going to cry about how hard it is. No, I don't think so. Not so fast, my friend. So it's just wild to me that Saban, of all people's, up here crying, saying regular season losses shouldn't matter. If you start adopting that, nothing means anything anymore. It's all just perception and how much talent, and you're not being guided by the wins and the losses in the regular season. I can't make that make sense. A combo of best and most deserving makes sense. Do you get why I say most deserving? Do you get why I want that to be a part of the criteria? Because Most deserving, if it was in the definition, could give you leeway to have a year where you play 6 top 15 teams. It just so happens in the SEC, everybody on your schedule is great. They're all in the top 15. You're going to lose a couple of them. You could argue that might be more deserving than Michigan's Big Ten schedule where they play 1 game a year. But you got to define that. You have to make it structured and say, if your strength of schedule is below this, too bad, you're out. Or make a thing in the playoff committee where if you play 6 top 15 teams, you get credit for that. Like, if you want to define these things to balance out inequities in the scheduling, fine. But this all just can't be so up to the whims of whatever they want to do that week and then rationale to tell you on TV and then get asked softball questions every week by Reese Davis or whoever. So I don't know, but it's a wild point of my life when I have Nick Saban, the biggest winner of all time, crying because his schedule is tough and he lost a couple games and didn't make the playoff. Boo-hoo for you. Go coach in the Pac-12 if you don't like it, tough guy. It just means more. Every week's a grind, blah, 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 blah. And then you're going to cry about it the 1 year it doesn't work in your favor to look at it that way. Just retire. Hand the reins over to touchdown, turnover Tommy. What do you guys think of this? I struggle with this best and most deserving argument and how you measure that. It's a big struggle. What do you guys think about this? Let me know. Have a good one.